The rule of thirds is the most commonly used composition technique amongst photographers. What it does is places the main subject at an intersection of horizontal and vertical lines that divide the frame up into segments of 1/3 each. And it's a very pleasing way to compose a photo with your subject on one of those intersections or following those lines. So if you're framing a landscape or a seascape, for instance, you might want to put the horizon on the line of 1/3 from the bottom or 1/3 from the top of the frame rather than dead center. It just balances things and makes a more pleasant composition. Beginner photographers will often put their subject dead center. I think it is something about just fitting it in the frame and not wanting to cut any off. Quite often I see portraits made with people where their face is in the dead center of the frame and there's a lot of space above their heads, and it's kind of wasted. Framing a composition, framing a portrait so that the subject is on one of those third intersections makes it a much more interesting picture. And this can work for close-up portraits, or it can work for environmental style portraits as well. When you're using the rule of thirds and you're placing your subject on that intersection or on one of those lines, it's also very important to consider, of course, what else is in the frame and using that, either the empty space or other elements within the frame, to help balance and build a strong composition. So it's not just about whacking your subject right on one of those lines and thinking, yep, that's a good composition. You've got to look at the other aspects of what's in your frame, what other elements you're taking photos of, and make it work so that they all build an interesting image together. It's really important to consider what I think is the most important photographic composition technique you can use is to fill your frame. And I've talked about this, I've written about this quite a lot on our website as well. It's just one of those things you've got to try and do every time you take a photo, is to fill the frame. Make sure whatever is in your frame is relevant. Don't try to force the rule of thirds onto a subject where it's not going to work. Some things you'll find are best framed centrally, and so that you've got a symmetrical image, or that you want something even pushed further out to the edge of the frame and not have it on the third. So you've got to consider these things every time you bring your camera up to your eye and think about it and consider it and thinking, well, is the rule of thirds going to work here or not? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Don't stick to it rigidly, but make it work for you whenever you can. So the rule of thirds is a really simple technique that can make a rather bland looking photo much more interesting if you use it well. So my challenge to you is to find a subject to photograph that you can move around and compose it in as many different ways as you can think of, but keeping to the rule of thirds. Use horizontal and vertical framing, really mix it up and see how many photographs you can get of the same subject so it's placed on one of the third axis or one of the lines of the thirds. I hope you found this interesting and I hope you enjoy the challenge. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a like if you've found something new that you've learned in this video, and subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and click the bell icon so you can stay up to date when we release new videos.